Hello and welcome to a basketball edition of this Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Josh Cox, and I'm joined by Scott Medlin, the big dog, and Jamie Holt. And we sit here with Duke basketball at 11-0 with some pretty incredible wins that we'll talk about at the beginning of this season. Before we do any of that, guys, we got to pay the bills. And we got some incredible sponsors that have come on this year. And we'll do just that. Let's hear from our first one, our friends at Hometown Air.
Rise to every challenge, and your home comfort should too. Hometown Air delivers champion level heating, cooling, and year round peace of mind. When holiday chaos hits and temperatures fall, we help your home stay at the top of its game. Need a gift idea? Choose the champion choice, a Hometown Air service contract that keeps delivering long after the season ends. Call 919-568-3212 or visit hometownairnc.com for your free quote today.
And those are our friends at Hometown Air. Make sure you call them up, especially it's getting cold, man. Getting cold out there. I know that heat sometimes needs to get a little bit of tune up. So make sure you hit them up. We are also brought to you by our friends at El Rodeo, the North Durham location there on North Duke Street. For all of your queso needs, right? Get your chips and queso there. Good atmosphere, drinks, Mexican food, a spot there for you to host your family or friends, a larger party. But hit them up there at North Duke Street in Durham, El Rodeo. And then finally, we have our friend, our realtor friend, Matthew Lunsford Bliven. Matt has been an incredible sponsor for a couple of years now. Hooks it up during football season with free tickets. We want to thank Matt. If you are looking to do anything in real estate, listen, whether it's buy, sell, plan for the future, purchase land, whatever it may be in the Triangle area, the greater Triangle area, not just Durham. He can help you out anywhere in the Triangle. Matt Lunsford Bliven is your guy. Make sure you hit him up. He has helped listeners on this podcast already over these last 2 years, and he can help you do whatever you need to do in the Triangle when it comes to real estate. You can reach out to Matt at mlb@chappellres.com. That's chappellres.com. mlb@chappellres.com. All right, fellas, 11-0. And just to put it in perspective here, before the season started, there was tons of talk about this wild schedule that John Shire put together. And so just to recap, this 11-0 includes wins over Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, Florida, Michigan State. And Duke still has the upcoming matchup this weekend at Madison Square Garden with Texas Tech. And so, man, pretty incredible start to this season for the Duke Blue Devils. Guys, so far, give me your thoughts on what you've seen from this team in this fast start.
Yeah, coming into the season, honestly, I was kind of worried about that schedule because, I mean, you look at what Duke lost last year. I mean, and coming in this year with not that much experience. I mean, you got Caleb Foster, obviously. You got Isaiah Evans and Gamba, but Darren Harris, not a whole lot of experience. Bunch of freshmen coming in, 11-0. I mean, exceeds my expectations. I honestly thought that they would take a couple of losses in November and December with that schedule, but so far so good. I mean, obviously, last night was a little rough with Lipscomb, but that's to be expected to me. Coming off a 10-day break, they were, exams, right? I feel like we've seen that story before. K-coach teams, I feel like, have struggled coming off, exam breaks, and any college team really struggles coming off exam breaks. I think it's just a tough time to be away. You're thinking about a Christmas break. You're thinking about all sorts of other things other than college basketball. But yeah, to me, this team has exceeded expectations for me so far.
I would say, going into the season, like Jamie said, there were definitely thought there'd be some more valleys to start out with than there have been. The freshman class has done a great job. The upperclassmen have done a great job. Slim's been balling. Caleb Foster's been playing well. And, we were talking off air a few minutes ago. Darren Harris, man, he's ready to shoot as soon as he checks in the game. And that's one of the things I love about him. But going into the Michigan State game, I really and truly thought that Duke was going to be in trouble just because it was the first time they'd be in a real raucous atmosphere because the zone up there is unbelievable. But thank goodness Jeremy Fears was a better cheerleader than he was a basketball player that day. Every 5 minutes doing this number, but couldn't hit a shot to save his doggone life. So, as far as that's concerned, man, they've gone to some tough places. I mean, even going to Tennessee in the preseason, that's a tough place to play basketball, and they won that game. So I like where we're at. I'm looking forward to the game Saturday. Obviously, the matchup is going to be really good. Two really, really good teams. So we'll see. Thing that worries me a little bit. When will the team start hitting the freshman wall? And will they all hit the wall at the same time? Or will they stagger it? I mean, because we've seen we talked about this off air too. We've seen some players struggle the last couple of weeks. They've had some issues. I mean, obviously we've had some injuries, some things like that have come up. So it's good to see though that they've had some valleys. They've gone to some peaks. They've fought through some injuries, and they still are sitting here at 11-0 right now. And to be honest with you, don't tell anybody. They're not getting a lot of respect. I'm okay with that. Keep it that way. You keep talking about the Arizonas. You keep talking about the Michigans. Let them be the friendly media guys. Talk about them every week you want to. Let Duke just keep doing what they do. Shire's got an idea, got a plan. And, man, I'm glad he's playing these games. And I said this the last time we did the pod. Ranked on ranked matchups, anybody? Yes, sir. Sign me up. Because these football games, I love football. I love college football. These bowl games have not been great so far. Put me a ranked on ranked matchup, I will turn that on any day over watching the college football. So, man, hey, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting to your point, Scott, before the season started. I made the statement a few times when I believe it was on with JJ with Locked On. But, this Duke team could fly under the radar a little bit more than last year's Duke team, did because, by this time last year, it was just like Cooper Flag, everything, right? This team is a little bit under the radar, even though Cam Boozer, I could argue, is a more effective college basketball player at this point than Cooper Flag was. And that is not to take anything away from Cooper Flag. It's not to say that Cam Boozer is going to be as good as Cooper, as good a basketball player necessarily, but like effectively, like Cam's got a little bit of that, like, I don't know, the pump fakes and the footwork is like, I hate to use this guy's name in a positive light, but like, he's got a little bit of like Tyler Hansbrough. I know I'm sorry, but he reminds me of that as far as his ability to score in the paint. And so anyway, I'm really sorry to Cam Boozer for comparing him to him. But anyway, it has been interesting to see Duke kind of fly under the radar at number 3 in the nation, 11-0 with all those ranked wins. But I think it's good. And then to the point about the freshman wall, there's a world in which Dame Sarr and Nick Kamenya are hitting that wall, as we speak potentially. There are stretches of games where either one of them could be borderline unplayable, but it's something they're just gonna have to play through. And I think it's just a natural thing that happens to all 18, 19-year-old true freshmen that are playing big-time college basketball. But I do believe both of those guys are going to put it together. And by the time ACC play comes, when you get past this next break we're about to see for the next few days after the Texas Tech game, but coming back, Georgia Tech starting off ACC play, hopefully those guys will be back and ready to go. And then I think you've seen a little bit of regression. I don't know if it's regression from Caden Boozer as much as it's just been progression by Caleb Foster. But Caden Boozer's minutes have gone down, a little bit of a wall potentially there. But I don't know. I guess the other name that's not been mentioned so far on this pod, and this guy is a vet, and that is like the steadiness of a guy like Malik Brown, and just the way that like it doesn't matter what's going on in the game. It's like, oh, Malik Brown's in. Like, we're going to make a play on defense. We're going to spread the floor better on offense. He's going to make the passes. Like, he's just he's like the best Swiss Army knife that you could ever possibly have. And like, anyway, just an incredible start of the season for him as well, in double digits against Lipscomb, which he doesn't always do. So thought
I was going to say, Shire shouted him out in the post-game presser about, you don't always notice Malik, but he was like sitting there with 11 points, and like he had a great offensive game. He passes the ball great. He's a great passer. He finds open guys and just gets his hand on the ball, like against Florida when he deflected that inbounds pass. I mean, you could see Shire like celebrating on the sideline because he just saw it right there in front of him. Malik just deflects that pass. Malik's just everywhere.
Yeah, and looking at some counting stats, I mean, you've got Cam Boozer right now that's just, playing incredible basketball. I mean, efficient, leading the country in scoring. I believe he still is. If not, he's in the top 3 to 5, averaging like 23 plus a game or whatever it is. And doing that in a way that's like not fluky, right? He's doing that in a way that is like super legitimate. He's not doing anything crazy flashy. He's just bullying a lot of people. And then also, not shooting the 3 as well as he probably wants to. But also, shooting the 3. And like, that's pretty wild. I believe we have a stat here that I want to highlight. Yeah, pretty crazy. First 11 games of a career. This is from Opta Stats on X. But Cameron Boozer is the only D1 basketball player in the last 30 seasons to have at least 250 points, 100 rebounds, and 40 assists through his first 11 career games. That's pretty incredible. Anytime you are the first or the only player in 30 seasons to do anything good, that's pretty wild. But that 250, 140 through the first 11 career games is pretty incredible. Obviously, the turnovers, I guess it wasn't terrible if you look back that he's got 18 turnovers on the season and 6 of them were in the Lipscomb game. So really 12 turnovers over 10 games is not too terribly bad, but something was a little bit off with that whole team in the Lipscomb game.
He is still leading the country in scoring by 0.6 points.
Nice. So, yeah. Yeah, guys. Any other thoughts? Any other players come to mind? I mean, Pat Gongba comes to mind a little bit for me. Just once again playing at a really high level.
I think it's amazing that he had his first double last night. I could not believe it when they mentioned that stat on television. I was thinking he had to have 4 or 5 of them, but I think his confidence level is so high right now, and the fact that he made a couple great blocks during the run that kind of sealed the deal. Because last night, if you think about it, I think they had 48 points a half. They're averaging 80, and they ended up with 69. So in the second half, Duke changed a bunch of stuff and played a whole lot better than they did the first half. Obviously.
Yeah, I think they actually wound up with 73, but I think it was like in that last 30 seconds. It was kind of
like somebody hit a 3 like at the end or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, Isaiah Evans kind of jumps off the page at me this year. He's not necessarily shooting the 3 that well right now, but I think that'll change. I think I saw where he was hitting about 32-ish%. But that'll change.
I think it's 34. I think it's 34.5% right now. Yeah,
I'm pretty confident that's going to go up.
Well, he hit the dagger against Florida.
Yeah, but he's driving the ball to the basket. He's finding other players open. He's playing good defense, which we saw that last year. He played good defense last year. And if Shire isn't careful, he's going to become known as a defensive guru, right? Because I mean, them boys gave up 45 points, like Scott said, to Lipscomb last night in the first half, and then like I don't know what Shire did at halftime, but it worked. 28 points in the second. But yeah, Isaiah is the one that jumps out at me. Other than what Scott mentioned, we mentioned Malik, Cam, obviously, but
Yeah, and I think it's interesting with Isaiah. First of all, his skill set, and this is not throwing shade at Mike Krzyzewski. It's not, but it is the reality of the final 8 to 10 years of the Coach K era, and that was struggling on defense, just not the same as it was earlier on in his career. And Isaiah Evans under the previous regime would have just been a defensive liability, I feel like. And this under the Shire regime with last year and this year, it's like you're going to play defense, you're not going to play. And he's done that. And also, to your point of taking the ball to the basket, I mean, Isaiah Evans has already been to the foul line 30 times, which is good for third on the team behind Cameron Boozer and Pat Gongba. So when you're your sharpshooter who can fill it up from behind the arc is your third leading free throw attempt guy, that's a really good sign for Isaiah Evans. So anyway, well, look, guys, that's our thoughts. We threw out there a little mailbag segment or post out there for you, and you guys responded several questions. And so we'll hit the mailbag, and then we got a little surprise, little Duke in the NBA surprise after that. But Jamie, lead us through a couple of the mailbag questions, man.
Yeah, and I'm since we did start as a football pod, I'm going to start with a football-ish question because Lane Phipps, our guy, sent this one. He said, "Who on the football team would make the best baller on the orange ball team, and who on the orange ball team would make the best football player? And at what point does Manny Diaz poach from John Shire?" I mean, I think pretty clearly as far as the basketball team to the football team, I think we may all agree on this. It's got to be Malik. They're all athletes. They're all great athletes, obviously. But Malik's that guy that I think you could have used him in the secondary this year.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for Cam Boozer at linebacker. You definitely can make that argument. But Malik would be nasty on playing some football, or he could be one of those slim edge rushers, like Chris Rumpf was, for Duke, a little bit undersized, but just fast and great hands. Like I could see that for sure. But yeah, I'm completely down for Malik playing football. Scott, you got anybody else that comes to mind?
I would say the other way around. If you go football to basketball, I gotta go with the other Coop. I think Coop just athletic enough to where he could probably be a pretty good guard. I don't know what kind of jump shot he's got, but my man can catch the football, so he's got a pretty good vertical.
Yeah, he's only 6'1". That's the only problem with Cooper Barkate playing basketball. And John Shire does not allow. He would not, unless you're Spencer Hubbard, you are not allowed on that roster.
Shire has a 6'1". I feel like the last couple of years we kind of knew like those guys were playing basketball. The football team was and they were all kind of talking junk, like who was the best basketball player on the team and all that stuff. But this year, I'm not sure I heard much talk about that. I'm trying to think.
I've got one. He's the Malik Brown in reverse. I'm going Landon King. Landon King has got that tight end, got some length to him. Made some, he mossed a couple guys. You can definitely see him. He fits that profile of maybe he played basketball, right? And decided to play football. So I'll go Landon King.
I didn't think about that. That makes perfect sense, actually. I could see that. All right. I'll go with
Real quick, Jamie, before you go to the next question, shout out to, I believe it was Matt Giles that asked the question after the Lipscomb game. Just the relationship that Manny Diaz and John Shire have and the support that Manny gives the basketball program and then vice versa. That's really cool to see in Duke athletics because as well respected as Coach K and David Cutcliffe were, I don't necessarily remember per se any much intentionality of the two programs really meshing. And so really cool to see Manny Diaz and John Shire, being intentional about that.
And I think Shire said after that question, because I was listening to the presser, and I think he said like Manny was one of the first ones to start reaching out to players after the Houston loss. I mean, a really tough loss, obviously, and Manny was one of the first ones, like, reaching out to the guys and reaching out to Shire. I just think they have a really good relationship, and that's very, very cool to see. Matt Brinson, do you think, and this was a great question, do you think the jersey retirement era is over? And he has a couple of different questions within that. So he also says, do you think Duke would ever lift some of their restrictions in order to retire any more jerseys? And lastly, who is one player that you thought should have gotten their jersey retired? And I thought about, once I read that question, I thought about one of the players who I thought should have gotten their jersey retired. And I'm going to go, he's fairly recent. He's still in the NBA right now. Matter of fact, he was on the Duke in the NBA segment in your first pod. That's our guy, Grayson Allen. I think his jersey should be in the rafters. I know he doesn't meet all the requirements. So, because what was it? You got to win a player of the year.
A national player of the year in something, whether it be defensive or offensive, which is.
So he had the national title. So that was, he needed a national player of the year, but he didn't get that. So no jersey retirement. But what you think?
This is going to be an unpopular opinion, I believe, among a lot of Duke fans. But I believe that Duke should honor. I think there should be some sort of honoring of a jersey that does not retire that jersey. That's going to be an unpopular opinion, but we are in a different era, right? It just is what it is. The last 15 years of basketball is just radically different than years previous. And I believe that you have historically good seasons by players like Marvin Bagley, Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple. You have these incredible, seasons by these guys. Paulo Banchero. You have these seasons, and you should be able to commemorate, what happened there. I don't know what the criteria should be. Maybe ACC Player of the Year. I don't know. We all know that Duke sometimes, and I think there's actually going to be a question about this a little bit later, but I think Duke oftentimes maybe gets the snub on some of those awards just because they're there all the time. Whether it be coaching awards or Player of the Year awards. But I don't know. I would like to see Duke be able to honor these one and done guys for the season that they had without obviously retiring a jersey. And by the way, if you're going to let Marvin Bagley wear Danny Ferry's jersey and stuff like that, then what's the purpose? Let's just, I don't know, either don't let it happen at all, or let's just open it up. Cooper should have been able to wear 32 if he wanted to last year. So anyway, probably once again, unpopular. Hit me in the comments. That's fine.
Did you have anybody, Scott, that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, people that should have been. I forgot about that, Scott. Go ahead. If you got anybody that should have been.
Well, I hadn't got that far in my thought process, but Banchero to me was one of the guys. I think Zion was a guy also. You mentioned both of those.
So I've got a non one and done guy.
Go ahead.
And this has been brought up, I believe, by our friends at the Devil's Den in their pod, I believe, a couple times. And he's obviously going through some personal stuff right now. But I believe Kyle Singler. If you look at Kyle Singler's career, it's really difficult to not retire his jersey. He was also a national champion. That's got to also, that's got to be, something. He's a teammate of John Shire's, all that. Once again, man, with that being said, prayers for him, man. I know he's going through a whole lot. And that's been, kind of well documented, but I really think if you look at the actual Duke career of Kyle Singler, I believe you can make a definite argument that 12 should be in the rafters.
If we're talking about one and dones, and maybe I missed this, maybe I blacked out while Josh was talking, I'm not sure. But did we mention Tyus Stones? If any one and done should have his jersey retired, or honored. Let's make it like we said, honored, because you just stayed at Duke 1 year, but nobody hit bigger shots than Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fact.
And off of that same team, we also forgot Jahlil Okafor, who dominated college basketball that year.
Right. You can make a case to honor those guys' jerseys, but I don't know if Duke will ever do that because there's so many jerseys in the rafters already. I mean, they would have to like put them in like the Hall of Fame type, like maybe a setup in the Hall of Fame where there's honored jerseys. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I know they do it over in Chapel Hill, so that's why it's going to be unpopular with Duke fans.
Well, Carolina's arena is 50,000 times larger too. It's going to be hard to hang as many things in Cameron because Cameron's a smaller arena, and that's nothing against Cameron. It's just the fact of the matter that that's the way it is.
All right, and here's the kind of the question that you were alluding to, Josh, about coaching. I believe Dalton Spurlock. So this team is off to the best start since 2017 and 18. Shire has had a master class so far. Why do you think he flies under the radar of some of the best coaches? Is it due to the expectations at Duke or due to Coach K being his predecessor? And we didn't mention this, so let's mention Shire, 100 wins. Congratulations to Coach Shire. He's 122, correct? That's pretty good. Like I'm not. That's not bad. That's not bad. He's got some good players, but like, he's won 2 ACC titles, 1 regular season title, 2 ACC tournament titles, been to a Final Four, been to a regional final. I don't know how he's not mentioned as. I mean, he's got to be one of the best coaches going. He's apparently a defensive guru. We thought we were going to suffer when we lost
Jay Lucas. Yeah.
Jay Lucas to Miami. Which shout out to Jay Lucas. I think he's doing fairly good at Miami so far. But Shire continues the defensive masterclass too, and offensively as well. I mean, things are just running like a well-oiled machine.
The guy's a recruiter. That's what he did. That's one of the things he did great when he started coaching and getting in the coaching game under K. He got all those great names that we talked about. And a name I just thought about, I don't know where he would have fit on the list, but somebody that he actually recruited that has had a really good career at Duke and is having a pretty good NBA career, Luke Kennard. Is another great shooter that came through. But he had a lot to do with that. And the fact that he's able to get these #1 classes every year, I almost feel like that the media is the media anyway. I think they're looking for a reason to stone anybody they can, like trying to fill in to take K's spot or whatever. They really never gave K as much credit as they should have. I mean, he changed so many things at the end of his career. Again, once he started coaching USA basketball, he changed his thought process and his mindset, and actually, for the most part, did a really good job of adapting. And that's a part of the problem with coaches anyway. And I mean, as an old guy, I know what I'm saying when I say this. It's hard to adapt your coaching style. That's one of the reasons why I don't coach anymore, because I'm an old school. That was my old school mentality. It doesn't work. You can't yell at a player anymore without the player looking at you like, yeah, forget you, old man. You don't know what you're talking about. So, but that's one of the things about Shire, though, man. He's able to get these guys. He has a great rapport with them. And I think he's done a great job of, when the guys are leaving the staff, fitting the new guys in. I mean, this year, these are guys that we didn't know a lot about before, but they're doing a great job, and they're helping coach. And I think that's part of the thing, the adapting process is what I mean when I'm rambling here. What I mean is bringing these newer guys in for the adaption of trying to put more NBA sets in, which works with these guys that we have. Obviously, when you have a Cameron Boozer, you have to put him in a pick and pop set or whatever. It has to happen.
No, I would agree with you. And to the point of the question too, Jamie, like, I believe in general, and I don't even believe this is just college basketball. I believe coach awards in general tend to favor the coach that coached the team that had the least amount of expectations and then overshot, right? They outperformed their expectations. And the problem with that when you're talking about Duke is that the expectations are already way up there. And so, like, there is no surprise if John Shire wins the ACC. He's supposed to win the ACC. And so, like, that's a hard sell. But like we were talking offline, we're not even sure how good some of these, ACC teams are at this point. But you got a team like Cal, currently with one loss. And it's like, I don't know if they're any good. We'll find out. But I can promise you this: if Cal finishes in the top 4 in the ACC, that coach is getting the coach of the year. That is what it is. You had Pat Kelsey, I believe. Was that last year Pat Kelsey got the ACC coach of the year? Is because Louisville was coming off some historically terrible seasons before he got there, and then he turns the ship around. So, like, I just think that's the reality of it. And then to your point, Scott, about the ability to adapt by John Shire, he actually has started. He's taken his recruiting from just the players to he's now recruiting staff, right? I mean, Evan Brad's coming in from the NBA and bringing a little bit of a fresh perspective, and then staying in-house with a Tyler Thornton, obviously for specific reasons, but, going outside to get Dildy, going outside to get Lucas, and those are bringing Stragi back. And like, those are really smart, man. And like, I know we don't have time to really like dig into like probably all that they bring to the table, but I mean, to your point about losing Lucas, heading into the tournament last season, we were, some Duke fans were like really, really nervous about that. And like, it wasn't the defense that caused that team to go home in the semifinal game. So,
and one thing about Shire too is he not like the coolest guy in any room that he's in? Like, dude's got some sort of aura about him. Like, also, if anybody at Duke's listening, those shoes that y'all gifted, that Nike gifted Shire, if I could get a size 14, that'd be outstanding. Those were really cool. Those were great. I don't know if everybody saw them or not, but they had I guess had his name on the side, had Shire, and then had 100 on the other side, and they were, I think it said the Brotherhood on the
tongue,
shoe, on the tongue too. Like,
yeah.
they were pretty sweet. All right, I got Stam. He says, do y'all think there will be a player who takes the role as the second option to Cam? If so, who? Or will it just be by committee each game? And shout out to Blake for Duke, because he asked similar question. He said, will it continue to be any given Sunday scenario, or will they get a consistent option too?
Well, it seemed to me that they were talking about a third wheel last night on the broadcast. So I never could figure out who the second guy was. I guess they were talking about Gumba being the second guy. But the third wheel, I mean, to me, the second guy is Slim. I mean, if he comes out and he starts hitting threes, is his confidence goes through the roof. B, when he is emotional, the team just feeds off of it. And it's the kind of player he is. And when he hits a three in Cameron, good God. I mean, that place went crazy. Well, obviously, the situation where he hit the three against Florida was when it was. But any other time, he struggled the whole night. He hit that three, and that was, step back a little bit, that was probably the loudest Cameron's been in a long time, non-Chapel Hill College game. So that's, to me, I think Slim is the guy.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there, Scott. I believe in order for Duke to maximize its potential this season, Slim's got to be the second guy, which he is right now. If you look at the stats, I mean, the basic stats. Now, I'm not looking at advanced analytics, but at the basic stats, it is him. But I mean, Pat Gongba is like the most unassuming type of guy, but then super effective, right? The way that he blocks shots and all that as well and defends has been really good. But I'll throw another name out there because I will say this: I believe people have been critical, and rightfully so, of Caleb Foster, but I will say there's been big games this season where it's Caleb Foster's really been the most steady second guy. And that doesn't necessarily always show up in the points per game, right? Even though his points per game is, decent, but it's really like the trust that I believe John Shire has right now with Caleb Foster with the basketball, the minutes played. I mentioned earlier, nothing against Caden Boozer, because Caden Boozer can do some things that Caleb Foster can't do. but just the fact that you're really seeing the minutes per game. There's definitely a larger divide there between the two because Caleb Foster's playing so well. So I believe the answer is slim, but I guess it'll be interesting. Like any game, there's going to be Gongba, Foster, and then it could be Sar, Kamenia as well. Like you don't know, but the answer is slim.
Yeah, I would agree with everything y'all said. And I was actually, after you mentioned Sar, I was going to mention Dame Sar because he's electric athletically, like, can jump. He can get to the basket. He's quick, plays great. He plays great defense, kind of wreaks havoc out there. He's kind of all over the place. It's like he's just, but if he could ever like consistently knock down the three ball, I mean, I could see Dame Sar being one of the top 3 options.
Yeah,
by the end of the
he's
season.
got to sure that handle up a tad bit too. He's got a little bit of that Jaylen Brown kind of sporadic handle. But you're right, Jamie. Raw talent, yeah, raw talent, like for sure.
All right. If Bentley Weeks, finally on our final question, wants to know what we expect Saturday against Texas Tech. Should be a big game in Madison Square Garden, correct? It is in the Garden, right? thought I was right about that.
It's in Cameron North.
Yep.
There's going to be a crap load of Duke grads and Duke fans that live up that way that are going to invade Manhattan on Saturday night. And this Texas Tech team, just battled Arkansas, took the L against Arkansas team that Duke beat. But obviously the Arkansas game was a very, very tough game.
It was an extremely competitive game,
yeah.
that Texas Tech and Arkansas. I sat down and actually watched it from the beginning. It was an exciting game, very competitive. Guy like Toppin, and I'll shoot it to you, Josh, and let you kind of talk through maybe some of his stats and stuff.
Yeah,
but he surprised everybody, I think, last year foregoing the NBA and coming back for another year in college.
Yeah, and Texas Tech with 3 losses, a spanking by Purdue, and then the loss to Arkansas. And I off the top of my head, I don't know who their third loss is. Illinois. Okay, so like no, they don't have a bad loss, right? I mean, the Purdue loss was bad, but I mean, it was at least to a top team in the country. But yeah, I mean, JT Toppin is going to be probably now. Cam Boozer has faced that Florida, the Florida bigs and the Michigan State bigs, but I think individual player wise, JT Toppin is going to be like a premier matchup for Cam Boozer. He's a good defender. He's a strong kid. Obviously a gifted offensive player too, even though he doesn't shoot the 3 well. But he really is like just a really, really strong basketball player. And so, Cameron Boozer is going to be checked. Toppin is going to, come at him because, they're really not a big team. And Toppin is kind of their big. Actually, that is what'll be interesting is, with the Duke lineup that they could put out there with Gongba. Be very interesting to see how they match up. But then JT Toppin is the guy that at least I knew, when I think of Texas Tech, I think of him. But the actual, numbers wise, if you look at like the per 40 and all those types of things, and a little bit, if you dig a little bit into their team, Christian Anderson is actually the guy that offensively, at least, is their most valuable weapon, even though, he doesn't quite, I think he's a couple points under per game what Toppin is. But Anderson is a small, he's a 6'2" guard, but just shoots the ball very well and shooting 42% from 3. So Duke is going to have to really, defend. That's going to be like a Caleb Foster, I feel like responsibility a little bit. But I don't know. That's what I see. This Texas Tech team, Scott mentioned a little bit, I think we talked offline, how the defense, not quite what you're as good maybe on defense as what previous Texas Tech bruiser teams were.
To me, the thing about the game Saturday, it'd be a couple things, a couple levels here. Number one, the officiating. I feel like they're going to let them play. So there's going to be some kicks and, it's going to be like a WWE wrestling match in there way better than that final match last Saturday night. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But there'll be a lot of beating and banging and pushing and shoving and trying to get position in the post. That's one thing. The second thing for me, and this is the thing I meant to mention earlier, that, and I said this in the last podcast, and I still am under the same opinion. Duke has to work on their free throw shooting. My goodness. We joked as we were tailgating for the JCC championship that they were going to go one of two. That was Josh's thing every time they went to the line, and that's what they did for the longest time to the very end of the game. They ended up going 14 to 21 from the free throw line. You cannot do that stuff in the big games.
Scott Medlin, I just checked this. I would like to tell you what Duke is shooting as a team currently percentage-wise from the free throw line. Are you ready for this?
I'm looking same thing you're looking at.
50.2%, literally spot on.
Yeah,
1 out of 2.
Yeah. Is it that's that bad? Good Lord, I didn't realize it was that bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm
just,
sorry. My bad. That's terrible. No, that's the wrong stat. 71%.
I was going to say,
man, my bad. I wish I could edit that out because that's dumb.
Either one, though, 71% is not great.
No.
No matter how you slice it, especially in these big games.
But I can tell you this. In crunch time, they're going to go 1 for 2, baby. It's going to be 1 for 2. You better just chalk it up. Now, Cam Boozer has had a couple where he's manned it up and hit both. But, man, it's 1 for 2.
If it's Cam or if it's Slim, I breathe a little bit easier. If it's any of the other guys,
Pat Gongba, I breathe easier.
Well,
Gongba's got a good.
The thing about Gongba though is he never gets fouled in a situation like that. It's always a guard or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't get fouled in crunch time a lot. You're right.
Yeah, because he doesn't usually have the basketball. If he gets it, he's giving it to a guard, and they're getting fouled. But to me, that's the one thing, and I think that's something Duke has to work on as we get into ACC play, because you're going to get in situations where you're going to get fouls. You're going to have to go to the line. And it's going to – I mean, there's going to be situations where you're going to have to hit these free throws to win games. And this 1 for 2 garbage for 3/4 of a game is not going to work. I don't care who you're playing.
And one thing they got to clean up as well, obviously. I'm not reading too much into it because like I had said before, the 10-day break, the exams, all that other stuff, looking probably completely past Lipscomb. But turnovers, my Lord. There was one point where Lipscomb was on I think it was a 26-6 run.
Yeah, it was 26-6 run there when they were down 10-0, and they came back and went on 26-6 run, and actually had extended that even further till Duke went on like some 70-30 run.
Yeah, and you can't turn the ball over like that against a team like Texas Tech, a top 20 team, obviously, and they're going to be in the top 20 all year. But it was funny with those turnovers. Duke still ended up with 48 points on the board at halftime, which is insane because if you would have cut the turnovers even in half, they probably got 60 plus on the scoreboard at halftime. But I mean, obviously, Shire was well aware of the turnovers, and he mentioned that in his post-game presser as well. They're going to have to work on that. But that's something that's fixable. Like, that's fixable. I don't think that they're going to go through the season and just completely just turn the ball over like that. But how many did they end up with? I know at one point it was 22. Like, it got pretty high. But
sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I don't have that game stat in front of me, but it was bad. I mean, it was bad. I believe it was 20 plus turnovers. So yeah. Not good. And like you said, you can get away with it against Lipscomb. You're not getting away with it. 22.
It did end up 20. I knew I'd heard the number 22, but I didn't know if that was the final number or what. But yeah, that's too many. I want to cut that in at least half, I would think, if not more than that. I think you want to keep it under 10, but if you could cut it in half, 11 is not as bad.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, thank you guys for sending in questions. We're gonna move on. We got a special segment coming up, a Duke in the NBA segment. The last time we recorded a pod, Grayson Allen had just dropped a 40 burger, and so we highlighted our guy Grayson Allen. Well, this time, you may have heard of this guy. There was a fellow that used to come to Duke. His name was Cooper Flagg, And Cooper Flagg just dropped a 40 burger for the Dallas Mavericks, and he is our Duke in the NBA spotlight. See, Jason Kidd finally decided that Cooper Flagg was not going to be the point guard for the Dallas Mavericks. And so he has a fella on that roster. His name's Ryan Nembhard, who's been playing a lot. He's got some other guys that can handle the ball. And so Cooper Flagg is currently averaging right at 19 points a game, 18.4 points a game, 6.3 rebounds a game, 3.5 assists per game, 80.5% from the foul line, not shooting the three as well as he would want to at only 25%. But one thing that we wanted to highlight, and this is what we can kind of discuss and probably laugh at a little bit in hindsight or cry about, whichever one we want to do. And that is the stat that we're showing right now if you're watching on YouTube. Most game-tying or lead-taking shots made in the final 5 minutes so far this season in the NBA. Cooper Flagg has attempted 17 shots in the final 5 minutes, game-tying or taking the lead, and he has made 12 of them, just a cool 70.6%. The only one shooting a better percentage is some guy that you may have heard of. His name is Victor Wembanyama, but he's only attempted 8 shots. He's 6 for 8. So 70.6% in crunch time, game tying, or taking the lead. Guys, last season, while he did hit some clutch shots, when it got down in that last minute of the game, there were a couple of losses that were on ISO Cooper there. And what do you think about this stat?
I think I was mentioning before we ever recorded about if you think about the last 5 minutes of games when he was at Duke, of course he hit some massive shots. There were threes, there were dunks, there were, everything. But then you got to the final 20 seconds and we had at least, 3 slip-ups, Yeah. It just is what it is. I think one of the faults, and I think I kind of put it on Coach Shire, even though as good of a coach as he is, like he kept on calling Cooper's number when we had other options. I mean, there was Con Knipple. He was pretty good. I would have been fine with Sion James taking a corner 3 to end the game or something, or just run something. But it was ISO Cooper like every time, seemed like.
Well, I believe it's something that Coach Shire has learned from, because you noticed this year, I mean, you had the pick and pop with Slim in the Florida game. And I mean, that's exactly, think about that last year with Con coming up and setting a pick for Cooper and then popping, and you're making those defenders choose. And if they stay with Con, Coop's got a lane to get to the basket. If they hedge with Coop, then Con's popping and he's going to get an open shot. So I do think that's a little bit of growth that you're seeing from this coaching staff, to the point Scott made earlier, right? Like they're adapting. And so you're seeing that. But back to Cooper, shout out to Cooper Flagg. There's a lot of pressure on that kid. There's a lot of LeBron James-ish talk about that kid coming in. And he struggled playing out of position, being asked to play the point at the beginning of the year. And finally, the Mavericks organization has kind of come to their senses. And so shout out to them.
And let's call out some of the idiots on social media too, that were already like, "Oh, Flagg's not as good as he was advertised." Like, good Lord, people. He's 18 playing against grown men. I mean, I saw one highlight the other day. I think he dunk on either dunked on Giannis or he kind of double clutched and made a layup over. I mean, I was like, that kid's 18. When I was 18, I could barely walk.
You're not lying.
48, you could barely walk, right?
Yeah, 47. I'm still 47.
I'm sorry. I tell you what, though, honestly, the fact that he's having to have the games that he is right now because they're not healthy. I mean, they lost Lively for the season. Davis has been in and out. Kyrie's still not back yet. I mean, there's a reason he's having to do what he's doing. But the fact that his percentage is 70%, and looking at the names that were on that list, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, all those guys, and the fact that he's taking the shots now, And maybe he's gotten better, obviously. Maybe it's a little bit better situation in the pros, a little bit more room to work than it has in college. But hey, shout out to him. 18, leading the team with 18 points a game at any age is unbelievable. The fact this is a true rookie who's only played, what, 25, 30 games, and he's doing what he's doing, shout out, my man. You're doing a great
who
job.
came to college a year earlier, whose twin brother is in his freshman season at Maine, right? So absolutely should and could have been in college right now. A young rookie. So anyway, shout out Cooper Flagg, shout out to Mama and Mama and Dad Flagg, who were great to interact with last season. But yeah, that's super, super cool. So listen, we're gonna first of all, thank you for watching this up to this point. If you haven't followed us yet, at Section 17 Media on X, on Instagram, and follow us on Facebook and then YouTube. Please subscribe, like. We're going to be bringing you basketball content every couple of weeks throughout the basketball season. But we have a special closing segment for you, and we'll take it home after that. But Brian Geisinger sits next to me on press row. He has incredible insight on the game of basketball. He covers a lot of stuff with the Hornets. We probably should have highlighted Con Knipple with him being on here, but he'll be back. So we'll highlight some Con stuff later with him and just the incredible year he's having with the Hornets. But he does some Hornets stuff, but he also breaks down on a really granular level, what the sets that Duke's running and the analytics that goes behind the success of Duke basketball. And so no further ado, I have a conversation with Brian Geisinger. All right, Brian, good to have you, man. Thanks for hopping on with us and talking a little Duke basketball today, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, Brian sits beside me actually on press row whenever I'm there most of the time. And if you follow his stuff online, you'll see he doesn't just cover Duke, obviously. But Brian, tell everyone a little bit about kind of what you do and your passion.
Yeah, so I cover college hoops and in the NBA at a few different places for college ball through 247 Sports, Basket Under Review, and covering the draft. For Swish Theory, you can find all of my pieces, different kinds of pieces at those freelance pieces at those spots. I actually had something go up earlier today as of the recording on Virginia basketball for Basket Under Review. UVA looks pretty good so far this season. So just sort of digging into some of their numbers in film and some of the newcomers that are playing really well there at UVA. I also have my own Substack page, which is briangeisinger.substack.com. It's titled Split the Action. And please, I publish, probably on average of like one Duke thing there a week. Sort of, no ads, all kinds of numbers and film analysis up there. It is free to subscribe. And again, like I think sort of a unique spot for basketball, college hoops information. And then I cover the Charlotte Hornets on the Buzz Beat podcast, weekly Hornets podcast that also has a Substack page, BuzzBeat Plus. That is paid to join there, but all kinds of sort of like premium resources and content that goes up there, along with from me and my my co-hosts. And so I think that about covers it. I might be leaving something out, but those are the big ones. And so
you're a busy guy, man.
Yeah, and again with my own Substack, Brian Geisinger at substack.com. Please subscribe there. Again, lots of Duke information going up there, and it helps me to see the subscriber count go up. So appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would encourage everyone that's watching or listening to make sure you head over there, subscribe to his Substack, follow on X, all that good stuff. And anyway, he does a great job breaking down. We already did our Duke in the NBA segment for this pod, Brian. But the next time we have you on, we'll highlight our guy Con there in Charlotte. We did Cooper this time because he came off the 42-point game, and we felt like we had to honor that. But Con is definitely worthy, right?
They're both playing amazing. Con just had a career high last week as well. Both those guys, I mean, they've been probably two of the three or four best rookies this season. along with Derek Queen and another Duke legend, Cedric Coward,
That's
with the Memphis Grizzlies. But Cooper,
Brotherhood runs thick, man.
it does. It was funny to see just how many people were like I'll say it, like we're like jumping ship after the first like 5 weeks of the season, and unsurprisingly, Cooper has found a groove and settled into a better role and looks just amazing. And again, I've seen every second of Khan's season so far this year. I've charted all but 2 of the Hornets games. He's been their best player as a as a rookie, and really having an excellent offensive season, and certainly like doing more than just holding his own defensively too. But offensively, he's been just a huge piece for the Hornets so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's encouraging to see those guys make that transition to the league. So
Sion James also playing well with Khan too, like has started several games, has closed games for the Hornets. And it's fun to see those guys. They sync up a couple of times per game on connection. So pretty fun to see those guys continue their chemistry for a second season now in Charlotte.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of kind of the readiness to go to the league, Coach Shire made the hire in the offseason of Evan Brads, obviously with the NBA connection there. And a lot of that, I would assume, influences, defensive scheming, but also what we're going to talk about a little bit, today. And that is kind of some of these sets, man, where they're able to get, Cameron Boozer specifically and Isaiah Evans also getting those guys in positions where they can score the basketball, with the most spacing around them. And that's the challenge, man. The NBA figured out the spacing game a little bit quicker than the college game figured it out. But I believe the coaches,
it's catching up.
It is catching up.
Catching
the coaches
up.
that have figured it out, you're seeing it. You're seeing the offenses, really get there. But kind of generally speaking, but we're going to dive into some film. If you follow Brian on X, you see that he does these clips and kind of explains what's going on. We're going to do that with 3 or 4 clips here in a second. But kind of broad overview, Brian, like Duke sitting here at 11-0 with some pretty impressive, obviously, wins. The schedule was highly talked about at the beginning of the season. So far, leading into the Texas Tech game coming up this weekend in Madison Square Garden, Duke is, yet to lose a game. And what are your thoughts so far on that 11-0 start?
Yeah, they've been, obviously the Lipscomb game was not the best for Duke. I was on press row for that game. They still ended up winning by 24, but I think pretty clearly the worst game that Duke has had thus far. But to be 11-0 with wins over, on the road at Michigan State, against Florida, Arkansas neutral site, Kansas neutral site, Texas neutral, to be top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency, to be, chucking threes at a high rate, to be scoring efficiently in the paint, to have Cam Boozer playing the way that he is. All of it is really good. I think across the board. But when you look out, to me, there are levels for them to go to offensively. And I think defensively, they've shown at times maybe their ceiling so far this season, not against Lipscomb, really where the turnovers also did them no favor. But offensively, I think, especially if you can find ways to get Caden Boozer, going more as a playmaker and a guy that can complement Caleb Foster. If you can have Dame Sarr, who's looked just a little out of sync and out of rhythm for a few weeks now, but certainly with his ranginess, his talent, you could even see some flashes at the end of the Lipscomb game, just like finding ways to kind of get him going. Hemenia obviously had a tough game against Lipscomb, but had played pretty well against Michigan State on the road. So just like trying to find ways to get some of the freshmen going and to get a little bit more, either primary or secondary creation out of those guys, really, I think would even further what is already a very good offense. That's one of the best offenses at targeting and finishing at the rim. And again, really shooting a good ball from deep. So I see a strong team, but one that still has levers to pull, and levers that they're kind of need to pull, because they do need to get guys like Caden Boozer, Dame Sarr, Hemenia, like those. They need those guys to be pieces for them. because they need the blend offensively. They need multiple guys being able to initiate, to play finish, to connect. And once that starts to happen, I think it'll also allow some of their sort of like flowy 5-out looks where they want to throw the ball at the high post and just sort of play out of it and just get into reads and let guys like Patrick Gongba, Malik Brown, Cam Boozer make plays and invert the defense. The more some of the young guys are comfortable in those reads, the more stuff it's going to open up and the more synergy they can tap into. So there's no guarantees, but I got to think that that's what they're sort of like targeted at and aiming for and hoping to get to, so they can kind of like allow this offense to hit its ceiling, which I think they did a year ago. And we'll see what it looks like over the next 3 months here.
Yeah, that's a great outlook there, and great feedback so far on what's happening. I do think it's also ideal for Duke running this 9 deep. Like there's a solid 9 right for Duke, and what you really have is you have for your Caleb Foster, you have your Caden Boozer. For your Isaiah Evans, you have your Darren Harris. For your Nick Kaminia and Dame Sarr, kind of interchangeable, and then you've got that Malik Brown piece, for the 4 and the 5 there. Like it really. You really couldn't piece something together, any better as far as like roster structure, what these 9 have.
It's a great, this is a program that's obsessed with team building and roster construction. They're very thoughtful about it. It is like hilarious to imagine what Coward would have looked like, playing next to Boozer, because he's been incredible as a rookie in the NBA. I kind of think even a guy like Darren Harris might be someone who could give him a sort of like a shot in the arm too. Like they're really trying to figure out that sort of like the second wing spot next to Evans. And so obviously they're going to try some double point guard lineups with Caden and Caleb Foster. Obviously guys like Sarr and Himenia, they're sort of like at the top of the list of candidates. And against Florida, they played Brown, Boozer, and Gongba together, which is something they did against either Howard or Niagara for a few minutes as well. But a guy like Darren Harris, who like pretty, like frisky off-ball mover, can really shoot, insanely quick release, get steals. And when you play him next to Evans, like all of a sudden you've got these 2 roving, 40% movement shooters floating around. So maybe he even is sort of like a skeleton key that helps them unlock some more of their like 5-out flow. He was quite good against Lipscomb. So like maybe he's someone that can even be like a spark for them and maybe even cut out more playing time for himself. And I don't know, we should probably just touch on Cam Boozer a little bit more, because he's been phenomenal this season. The numbers he's putting up: 31% usage, 25% assist rate, 3% block rate, 3% steal rate, 6.5 fouls drawn per 40 minutes, 35% on threes, 65% on twos, 79% from the line. He is hyper efficient. He is an excellent playmaker. He's a terrific passer. He maps the floor exceptionally well. His vision, all of the passes he can make, both in the open floor, with the hit-aheads and the outlets, and certainly in the half court when he's initiating 5-out, or he's initiating inverted pick and roll, or he's double teamed in the mid post. His processing and his fluidity in those moments is really, really good. And he's not like as amazing as Cam is. Like he's obviously like, he has some of his own limitations. He's not the quickest athlete laterally. He's not super bursty, but he has excellent footwork, excellent shooting touch, and is a really good processor. And especially when Duke gets into some of these different actions, whether it's the inverted looks where Evans is screening for him, or it's 4-5 pick and roll with Gongba or Brown screening for him, or more inverted looks with Caleb Foster screening for him, they can do things to sort of like give him like a little like crease, little advantage at the start. And then he can take advantage of that. That's really where his skill and strength can sort of like sing after that. So again, I think there are levers for them to pull and levels for them to potentially expand to. And even someone like Pat Gongba, like I think the fit with he and Cam has worked pretty well this season. It's like hard to argue with an undefeated record and a super efficient offense with those two guys on the court. But I do think there's even more to sort of squeeze out of it. And I think a lot of that will have to do with just kind of like getting the 5-out flow humming a little bit more. Pat's a really good like face up passer. And I feel like they've pulled some off of that this season, but there's even more of that. And to me, that really does sort of start with Evans and maybe even a guy like, Darren Harris, those guys sort of like getting into flow as movers. Dame Sarr is a cutter, Jimenez as a cutter and a spacer. But to me, I think those two guys have partnered pretty well, even if there is like a little bit of overlap, like a little bit of redundancy with their skills and sort of like where they want to operate on the court. I think Duke has done a good job spacing it out, playing those guys together, and then having them interact with one another in ways that can sort of like help the other one get a favorable matchup or look at the basket. So again, plenty of room for growth and for opportunity, but so far you can see the makings of what's been a pretty good offense, and to be top 10 in adjusted efficiency with plenty of other good indicators. Like their start had like this being a top 10 offense right now isn't the byproduct of them just like shooting above their means from
Right.
three, right?
Yeah.
Like they're 35% on threes. That's not bad. But they could probably jump up. That might, go up a little bit. And that doesn't happen just accidentally. Like there's stuff you've got to do to sort of encourage that. But for them to be sort of like just decent from shooting threes and to still be where they are offensively is I think pretty encouraging. And they still have these sequences of ball movement, player movement that are impressive and also pretty fun to watch too.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier about the inverted pick and roll. I think that'll be the first kind of play that we pull up. This is in the Michigan State game that we'll show here in a second. But what you want to pay attention to when we show this is Isaiah Evans coming from the right, and then watching the defender, what he has to do to respect the pop. Right. That's really what this is about. Right. Is spacing. The defender has to respect Isaiah Evans. There can't be can't put as much attention on Cameron Boozer as he deserves, right? Because of Isaiah Evans. So we'll play this, and then Brian, you can kind of walk us through it.
45-40. Boozer with 7 of his 9, make it 9 of his 11.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I mean, you can see Duke. This was after a timeout, and this is really where they needed to kind of get the offense going. They were sort of stuck in the mud against MSU. They go 5 out with Boozer operating in the middle, and then they're just going to bring Evans there to the to sort of like help with Cam Boozer's leading the dance in the middle, and Evans is going to come up and be his pick and roll partner. You've got Cam Ward, a freshman forward for Michigan State, who's a good player guarding the ball. And I think it's Scott. I think he's the guard defender here for Michigan State. He was dragged into a lot of these inverted actions because he was a primary defender on Evans in this contest. And so you got to remember, like Michigan State doesn't want to switch this action to end up with Scott, a smaller defender on Boozer. I do kind of think like more teams might try to switch this throughout as the season progresses. But it's tough because Cam's good. He can get to the back down, especially if you got the floor space, and he draws a ton of fouls. But they don't want to switch this. So they either want to like show on Boozer to try to like keep the ball in front. But you got to remember, Evans is such a dangerous shooter, and he can slip out and he's going to pop to the opposite side of the court. And so Scott's worried about the best shooter in the gym cutting in the opposite direction from where the ball is headed. It's tough. He's got to essentially be in two places at one time, like show on Cam Boozer, like do a little like half hedge and then stick with Evans. He sticks a little too close to Evans, like doesn't get in front of Boozer at all. He's, easily able to turn the corner and doesn't meet another defender. Literally Cam Ward is like grasping at air as Cam goes around him. And you've got just Carson Cooper back between them. Beautiful Euro step move from Boozer to sort of glide around him and get to the rim for a pretty easy layup by, especially compared to the defensive attention he saw throughout this game too. But like, that's a great way to get Cam in the middle of the floor with Evans, who's a great screener. And you've seen during John Shire's tenure, they love to use their best shooters as screeners. So
You
Jared
saw it last year with
McCain,
you saw yeah, I was gonna say
Con,
McCain 2 years ago, Con last year.
Evans last year too. I mean, Darren Harris is used like the Tyrese Proctor. And that's something where I remember actually asking, I think it was 2 seasons ago, asking John Shire after a game about them using Jared McCain as a screener. And I won't try to like even paraphrase what he said, but it basically talked about how, in the NBA, you see teams like the Golden State Warriors taking their best shooter, their best scorer, Steph Curry, and really like weaponizing him as a screener because it really geeks out the defense because they're so worried about this guy slipping loose for an open three that all of a sudden it scrambles their coverages. It causes miscommunication. It causes confusion. And all of a sudden, either someone's popping free for a three or the ball handler or the player cutting off the screen is going clear into space. And I remember I do remember John sort of joking, like saying that Jason Tatum has become one of the best screeners in the NBA, in part because he's such a dangerous scorer. And John basically joking, like, if you told me that Jason was going to become one of the best screeners in the league when he was at Duke, like, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So they lean into that with Evans. And then the inverted component of this, that naming convention, all it really means is a smaller player, a guard, setting the ball screen for the 4 or the 5, with Cam Boozer. So you're having the 2 guards screen for the 4. So it's inverted from what you would normally expect, the 4 screening for the 2. And then lastly on that, because you have 2 sort of like dissimilar sized players, the defense probably doesn't want to switch that action again and end up with a smaller guy on Boozer. So that's why it's difficult, a difficult play to guard. And that the last few weeks has become a huge piece for them when they've needed to like jumpstart the offense or close off some of these like late game scenarios.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. Great insight there on that inverted pick and roll. Something that Duke fans, that's something honestly is pretty basic and simple that you can look out for, when you're watching the game. And, if you're like me, sometimes you get kind of caught up in some of the peripheral stuff. And like, these are things you can focus on specifically when you're watching the game. The next one I want to pull up, and I'll just do one of these zipper plays, but, Brian, real quick, before we even show, well, I guess we could show it and then you can kind of explain exactly
perfect.
what it is. Zipper is going to kind of explain itself here, but we'll show this one. I believe this one's from the Arkansas game.
Carter Knox, the sophomore from Tampa, makes this a 4-point game.
Look how they stretched the D out.
Boozer, that ball bounced off his leg. He recovers and he massages it in.
Once again, this is all about getting Cam Boozer in a spot to where he has flexibility and freedom to score. So I'll pull it back and kind of go through it slowly as you.
First off, Bill Raftery and Ian Eagle are just 2 of the best, 2 pros, really. But yeah, this is a play type that Duke has run a lot starting last season. And the zipper sort of component of this is Cam Boozer starting in the corner. And then kind of like, usually they'll kind of come down through the middle of the lane. This time he sort of just glides over the top of the screens, but zipping up the floor, up the middle of the floor off those staggered screens from Sarr and Gongba. Now, usually this is like one of the guards, like Hemenia or Caden Boozer or Caleb Foster. They're the ones usually zipping up the floor to catch the ball atop the key where Cam has it now. But because they want to get to, this is the first play of the second half against Arkansas. So right out of halftime, they want to get to that more inverted pick and roll with Evans and with Boozer. And so Evans is just going to fly out of the right weak side corner and come up, set this little ghost screen. Arkansas, they do it like Brazil does a pretty good job because Evans sort of like slips the screen. There's no real contact. Arkansas does a decent job staying home on Evans, and they keep the ball in front. But as they're trying to like not help, Cam has the ball in the middle of the court, everything's spaced, and he can just sort of like take his time, get to his spot. No double from Wagner. He doesn't want to leave Isaiah Evans. And then Cam can just sort of, again, use his footwork, his combination of footwork, strength, and skill. So even though that plays pretty well defended by Arkansas and Trevin Brazil, who's a good veteran defender and really athletic laterally, vertically too. Again, you're still getting Cam in the middle of the floor with a little bit of advantage, and ultimately that's like a good place to be.
Yeah, for sure. Let's throw one more zipper play up there. I believe this is from the Kansas game.
Yep.
This was a good.
Outstanding in this first half. That's why Bill Self had to bring him in, take that risk of those 2 fouls. Shot clock turned off here at the end of the first half. Cameron Boozer up top. Evans launches, hits.
There's more of that inverted screen. Could you actually start the clip again from the beginning? It was a little you're going to see this time same sort of zipper lift the Boozer. This is the same play that we just played at the second half. Same thing. Again, they're running at the end of the first half as opposed to the second half. You see Evans burst that screen. Cameron gets 2 on the ball, and ultimately, look, half-court offense is about a bunch of different stuff, but when you really boil it down to, it's all about creating advantages. And the best way to create advantages is to get 2 defenders on the basketball. And whether it's Cooper Flagg or then this year Cam Boozer, you have these big front court playmakers that teams are going to be worried about, whether they're posting up, they're isolated. But if you put them in the pick and roll, you're bringing the second defender into the action, and it's an opportunity to get a second defender on the ball. And when you do that, you put 2 of those defenders on Cam. I think we've seen in some of the first 2 clips, like MSU and Arkansas, you saw the defense stay home on Evans, and that opened up the middle of the floor or a direct driving lane for Cam. And on this one, Cam gets 2 guys on the ball, and all of a sudden Evans is going to, rocket in the other direction, for a wide open catch and shoot 3. And then pause it real quickly here too, because one of the guys I want you to keep an eye on is Caden Boozer in the left wing. He does a nice job. Like, he knows Isaiah's coming up to set the screen and ghost out and towards the left side of the floor. And so Boozer needs to exit that space. So he's going to do a little 45 cut through the lane, clear out. His defender, Melvin Council, who just lit up NC State the other night, he's all of a sudden he's looking behind him to see where his defender's gone. He doesn't see Isaiah Evans popping out to the wing. Boom. I mean, look where this is such a great Rosario does a nice job trying to recover. I mean, he's such an athletic defender, but where Evans catches this, it's just too much space, for a 6'6" guy with a quick release. Yeah, great play to end the, out of a timeout to end the first half against Kansas. Again, when Duke is looking for a bucket, this is a play that they can go to. And ultimately, it's why, I said a few minutes ago, I do think teams may start to try to switch this action a little bit more.
Yep.
And maybe you can't do that every time, but maybe if you think it's an end of half, end of game situation out of a timeout, maybe defenses toggle their matchups a little bit. You know what I mean? So they've got a guy on Evans that they think they feel a little bit more comfortable switching on to Cam, but not everyone has that kind of personnel. So it's going to put a lot of defenses in a tough spot.
Yeah, and I actually think we don't need to underestimate that movement by Caden, because that's just one more piece of movement that confuses, has the potential to confuse the defense, and you saw it, there. Where truthfully, if you're scheming their defense after the fact, you're saying, hey, Caden's guy, the guy that was guarding Caden, should have stayed, and they should have technically switched. Those
on the fly,
switch on the fly. And it didn't happen, which is what results in, Isaiah Evans getting a shot with no one within 10 feet of him, so.
But it's also hypothetically, the defense could try to switch that on the fly, but if that's not in sync, then maybe you keep the ball in front, maybe you keep someone on Evans, but maybe Caden Boozer's able to cut to the rim, and Cam can pass right over the top and hit him on a slip to the rim. So that's also why Cam in the middle of the floor, with his vision, with his unselfish play, with all the attention that he commands, again, is a real Maybe despite where he is like a little limited in terms of just like high end burst athleticism, is still a really dangerous play initiator for all of these other, impactful reasons.
Yeah, and this last one, we'll do is from the Texas game. It's a Horns set. Horns is
Mhm.
nothing new to Duke
Mhm.
basketball. You've seen it a lot, and we'll show that and then kind of talk through. This is a really solid play to get Isaiah. It winds up Isaiah Evans with an
Yep.
open three. So we'll watch that.
A two-way player and another really good guard rebounder.
Yeah, he really, statistically, he was like leading in almost every area.
Line driver and swished in by Isaiah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is real quick, just to, I believe if I've seen this right, Brian, before you explain this, this is a set without Cameron Boozer on the court because your Horns is being run by Gongba and Isaiah Evans, and I don't see Cam on the court. I see Darren Harris and Isaiah. So anyway,
Yep.
I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. This is Caden, Nick, Isaiah, Pat, and Darren Harris.
Yep. So one of the things having like, especially the last 2 seasons, or really even the last 3 years, if you go back to some of the ways Duke tried to use Mark Mitchell in the 23-24 season, like in a partnership with Jared McCain, this amazing, movement shooter, was one of the things that like to always keep an eye on with Duke is if you see one of the corners get emptied out, and if the 5 or the sort of like the non-shooting front court player is lifted to that side of the floor, like there should be alarm bells going off in the defense's head that like a flare screen is coming. And a flare screen is it's an off-ball action, an off-ball screen for a player cutting away from the ball. So not like curling towards it off of a down screen, moving away from the ball in a different direction. So Evans is going to initially start this play by lifting to that right sort of like elbow slot area. Boozer is going to pitch it to him, and Evans is just going to quickly touch it back. And they're going to get this little initial exchange, which puts the Texas defender like a step behind. I think it's Weaver, like a step behind Evans, which you'll also see in the far corner. Again, I think is it Darren Harris? Is that who's in?
Darren Harris
So-
clearing out? Yep.
So Harris is going to clear out, and he's going to run the baseline to the right corner, and he's actually going to come off what's called like an exit screen from Jimenez. So he's just going to, but that's all that is designed to like tie up the defense and empty out. And all of a sudden, look, there's no defender in the entire left side of the floor, so everything's open. And the Texas defensive center, the player guarding Patrick Gongba, he's playing off the body. So he's sunk back off of the screen. So he's not going to be in position to help. So it's not Weaver, it's Cam Hyde, the Purdue transfer. That's who's chasing Evans around the screen. Gongba sets a great flare screen. Like where you have it paused there is perfect. Like he's created excellent contact. And you basically now have a 2-on-1, right? Because it's all on Cam Hyde to get over this screen to close out on Evans. His center's not giving him any help. And because he's essentially been removed from the play for basically a full second because of Gongba's screen on Evans, I mean, again, same thing we were just talking about a second ago. Like you can try to close out and contest this and Hyde, similar to Rosario a second ago, like makes a good effort to get out there. But that's too much time and space for a guy like Evans to catch it on. Evans has he's shot like an okay ball so far this season from deep. He's still been quite good coming off screens. I think I had after the Michigan State game, I'd have to check. I wrote this in a few places. I think he was, according to my own charting data and including the preseason, I think he was hovering around 40% on threes coming off of flares this season. And I think they can get into even more of that. And they have a lot of different ways that they have a lot of different ways that they've gone to in years past with McCain, with Knipple, with Proctor, with Evans last season. They haven't even gotten to this year. And also this is a pretty creative coaching staff that's going to keep looking for new ways to get Evans coming off those actions into space. And it should be noted too that like Duke, they do a good job with 2 other things. One, which is like I like to refer to it as play sequencing, which I sort of like think of it as like a football term, but it's like basically you show the defense the same look a couple of different times, but all of a sudden you start running different combinations off of it. And Duke does a really good job showing a defense one play 2 or 3 times. They run it a third or fourth time, but then they're targeting. They've got like a little counter, a little tweak to it. And
Yeah,
then
so like in this, for instance, for this, like what you could see Duke run if they ran this a couple of times is Gamba could, if they're expecting that center to try to beat that flare, Gamba could cut to the rim.
you could slip.
You
You could
slip
slip.
there for sure. Yeah.
One of the other
And
things,
yeah,
one of
many
the
other
other,
options.
one of the other things they could do too, especially if Gongba doesn't get like one of the other things they could do is they could set that flare screen the same exact way, and then Gongba can flip his shoulders, and Evans could come back towards the ball off of what people in basketball call a Ricky action, which is just a rescreen.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he curls off a down screen towards the ball. Duke does that a fair amount too. They did that a lot with Khan last season, especially once defense start to expect the flare, and all of a sudden you start to get over pursuit on those looks. Then you counter it with those with the slip like he said, or the rescreen, or honestly you could look for Darren Harris coming off that exit screen to the corner. I mean, that's really just designed to like occupy the defense and clear out the floor. Like it is dummy action, but it still is a dangerous shooter coming off of a screen too. So there's a fair amount of things you can do. And also if the defense is so occupied with all that stuff, you might just see Caleb Foster just try to go off the dribble, right? Because if you've got the defense tied up on the left wing and in the right corner, then you can just try to go one-on-one in the middle of the floor and get downhill and get into the paint and make plays out of that too. So they do that. And then Duke just has like, sometimes this makes it tough for me because I do track and chart every Duke game and I've got names for all of these plays. Like some of the plays look so similar, and they're like, sometimes Duke will run that exact same play where they're trying to clear out the left side to send Evans off of a flare screen. But instead of throwing the ball to him and then having him pitch it back to Caleb Boozer, sometimes he'll come up and he'll screen and then he'll come off the flare screen. Sometimes he'll come up and he'll just slip it. He'll just clear to the other side of the floor flare. And so like it's essentially the same play, but they can run it a little faster. They can get into it in slightly different variations. And that's got to make it, just little stuff on the margins that makes it tough to prepare for them too. So that is one of the reasons why I do think this offense has sort of like another gear to get to, because I think there's even more stuff to tap into with Evans and Harris coming off of these screening actions and looking for threes.
Yeah, man. No, that's really good stuff. And Brian, man, these are things that as if you're following the game, you're watching a game and you see something happen, rewind it real quick. You see a play that just looked like it came into place and it happened. Like rewind it and take a look back and see what they actually did, right? And what they actually did to make that happen. And then notice those things throughout the season of like, hey, they're using this a little bit differently now than they used to. But man, I really appreciate the insight, Brian. You really opened up some eyes. We'll obviously want to have you back, man, as we talk through different things. Sure. And honestly, we see this team get into ACC play, and what are some of the adjustments that the coaching staff will make depending on who they're playing, and smaller lineups. Going with the big lineup that we've seen Malik and Gongwa on the court together some, and as you mentioned a couple of times, we've even seen Cam at the 3, depending on who the matchup is against. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Remind everybody quickly where you at on X, Brian, and then your Substack one more time.
Yeah, follow me, BGeis, BGEIS_bird on social media, and then my Substack page is briangeisinger.substack.com. It's titled "Split the Action." Please read it and subscribe. There's a lot of Duke content up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, man, thanks for coming on for Jamie Holt and Scott Medlin, who were not able to make this one. Brian, thanks once again for coming on. Josh Cox, this has been another episode of the Section 17 podcast.